Good morning, Puckheads. It's your buddy Chop It On coming at you with another slate breakdown video. Today we have a 5-game NHL slate. Of course, I'm going to tell you, I'm a coach and contributor at dfsarmy.com/ref/3. That's the site that you go to. The comments will have the link, the coupon code CHOP, C-H-O-P. I'll tell you as a 10% discount. You know what? I might even tell you that you can find me on Twitter at Chop It On. I might even tell you that you need to become a VIP at dfsarmy.com, where we cover all sports. We have coaches for everything. We have tools. We have optimizers, research stations, spreadsheets. We have the whole bit. We have the most important tool to your DFS success, which is the Slack channels for VIPs. We get in there, we talk back and forth all day long about player picks and stacks and strategy and head-to-heads and how to build differently for GPPs and all of that good stuff. That's what we do. And our coaches are the most accessible around the industry. If you are not a member, you need to become one. MLB is coming up soon. You know, I might even tell you a little bit about MLB because we know baseball's around the corner, and, you know, new things, new shiny toys are great. We want to pick them up and play with them a little bit, don't we? So let's dive in today. We'll talk a lot about the slate. We got a short slate, which gives us some flexibility, and we have actually an opportunity to have a little bit of fun with maybe some lineup building and stuff like that if we can get to it. So let's dive in really quick, and let's jump right over to Fanduel's MLB page, because I want to tell you about two quick things for MLB as we start prepping up our writing and start prepping up what we're getting ready to do inside DFS Army. I'm going to tell you, it's the beginning of a brand new season. Everybody's going to be in there. Everybody's going to be trying. I get asked questions like, hey, should I maybe wait for numbers to come out and normalize, or should I jump in right away, or whatever? I'm going to tell you that I've had success both ways. I've gotten my clock cleaned early in the season before, and I've been very, very successful early in the season before. That's totally up to you. But my mindset changed a couple of years ago when I thought, I'm a numbers guy. I like numbers. I like to see the numbers normalize a little bit. Then I can kind of predict what I'm talking about and to kind of know. But by then, a lot of the prices have come up on a lot of these players. And so really and truly, what I got into last year and the year before was I liked playing early in the season because then I could pick studs that I won't be able to play in August. You think I'm going to play Bryce Harper or Mike Trout or Paul Goldschmidt or Giancarlo Stanton or Aaron Judge in August? Odds are going to be a little bit against it. Maybe on some short slates, maybe in some premium matchups, but as a general rule, they're going to be too expensive for me for the variance that they bring to my lineup and the fact that they can give me a zero. So I will tend to shy away from the really, really, really expensive guys, just like football and Antonio Brown and whatever else. You've got some guys that you want to play all the time, but not all the time. You know, Clayton Kershaw is another one. We do a lot of pitching reviews inside dfsarmy.com too. So those guys are as cheap as they're going to be for the most part. Now, you know, Max Scherzer all of a sudden has a crappy year. He might stay down around this level. But my concept I'm trying to get across to you is when you play early on, you get these guys at discounts. You can leave money on the table and still field phenomenal lineups. What I'm looking at when I look at the slate right now in Kershaw, Sale, this is the other thing I don't like about early in the season, though. Early in the season, all of the ones, the aces, line up against each other. You know, you're going to get Kershaw versus Bumgarner. That's not a good matchup for any of the bats. You know, you're going to get Sale and Archer. Scherzer and, well, you know what? Maybe you're going to play some Washington bats because I don't know who Cincinnati's ace is. Syndergaard and Carlos Martinez. You know, I mean, these are the matchups that you're going to end up getting, and it's tough. And then in day 4 or day 5, we're going to get the schlubs versus the schlubs. So those would be fun. So if you want to take the first couple of days off, do that. And maybe when the aces play the aces, you just don't want to play because it's not as much fun because it's lower scoring typically until we start getting days off and they're mixing up that schedule, messing things up a little bit where we can get the 1s versus the 3s and the 2s versus the 5s and stuff like that, where we've actually got a little bit more of a steady flow like we'll have 3 weeks or 6 weeks into the season when that stuff finally gets shuffled up. So you can do it a couple of different ways, but I wanted to at least bring that up to you to let you know we're thinking about it at dfsarmy.com. The other thing I'm going to tell you is this catcher, first base, and this utility spot is different for Fanduel this year. And if you play on Draftkings, that's fine. We can talk Draftkings. I personally am not a fan of the 2-pitcher thing. Some people love it. It doesn't allow me to really roster Chris Sale or Clayton Kershaw all that often without punting at pitcher. And sometimes I can find that guy, but a lot of times I can't. So I'd rather, just pay up for pitcher and move on with it. It's just my style. It's just how I play. What I do kind of am intrigued by is that the catcher just all but went away. Not entirely, and you GPP guys are going to say, hey, I'm still going to throw a catcher out there because blah, blah, blah. And that's fine, and you're right. But as a general rule, the most production of any fantasy position comes out of first base. So that catcher first base is going to be a first baseman most of the time, and so's the utility spot. You're going to drop two first basemen in your lineups especially until prices come up and make that unaffordable. You're going to be using two first basemen a lot in your lineups. Your value, middle infield, and then maybe an outfield spot or two. You can get a lot of production. You're going to see a lot of 4 outfielders. Your more GPP plays are going to be running 2 second basemen or 2 shortstops or something like that. And is it going to win somebody a GPP throughout the year? Probably. But it won't be me because I just don't play that way. I'm a little too chalky. I'm a chalk eater. So anyway, without burning too much time on baseball, let's jump into hockey and let's talk a little bit about where we're going tonight. When I look at Las Vegas odds, I'm looking for the bigger odds. I'm looking for the over-unders. That's where I'm going to start. That's not where I'm going to end. I'm noticing the industry is really, really focusing on that lately, and that's fine. It allows me an opportunity to get away from you. I did not, Rogers. Last night, if you saw my video last night, what you saw was me tear apart the Philadelphia goalie Lion and say that he was half dud, half decent. You didn't know what you were going to get. Not a good cash safe goalie, blah, blah, blah. But the minus 240 or 220 out of Vegas made everybody jump on him, and they were rewarded, and that's fine. Okay, so you limp your pocket aces. Every once in a while it works out for you. It was not right in cash. Period. End of story. It was not right. You got lucky. I don't want to sound like bitter Magoo. I cashed anyway with Rene. I didn't have any problems with that. What I'm telling you is it was wrong. Fundamentally wrong. For cash. For GPPs, throw a dart, roll up your, what I'm going to do, I told my guys in Slack this yesterday, what I'm going to do today for picking my goalie is probably put a picture of Pekka Rinne on the wall, because I told you he had less than a 10% chance of dudding, and of course I jinxed the hell out of him. He dudded. But I'm going to put a picture of him on the wall. I'm going to put the pictures of the other goalies that are starting today loosely behind him, and I'm going to throw a freaking baseball at his head so hard that it knocks all those pictures loose out from behind his face. And the first one that hits the ground is the goalie I'm playing today, because I swear to God, there's no other way to pick him. Now, okay, that's not exactly true. What we're going to dive into is we're going to pick a goalie, and then we're going to go through some of the players, and then we're going to maybe build a lineup, and then we're going to wrap it up and call it a day. Today's Freebie Friday, so you're going to get the research station today. I'm going to show you a little bit about that. But what we're looking for is bigger Vegas odds. 200 gets my attention in Pittsburgh. 145, this game is interesting. 300 is going to get everybody's attention in St. Louis. Jake Allen's your chalk. Why? Because the mindless drones are just going to run to him, and they're just going to roster him. They're not going to look at game logs. They're not going to look at his consistency. They're not going to look at the fact that he can give up 5 goals. They're just going to flat out say, well, he's playing Vancouver. It's a minus 300. It's a 5.5. Vegas likes him. Okay, roster him. And that is short-sighted and stupid. And I don't mind saying that to all of the DFS fish out there that are learning this game. You have to look deeper. You have to look deeper into these numbers. Okay, what we've identified is a minus 300 goalie, which is great. And a 5.5 leaning to the under game, which is the lowest on the slate, to be quite honest with you, because everything else is a 5.5 under. Great. We know Vancouver's not good on the road. Great. But is St. Louis scoring goals? Maybe. Not really. But we got to look at these things. Let's cross-check Jake Allen with some other goalies and see if he's actually still the best one on the slate. We've got to look at these things, or else we're stupid. Or we're lazy. So what I'm going to do is dive in, and I'm going to start looking at Jake Allen. I'm going to go down here. I don't think any of these guys are really all that playable, to be quite honest with you. Olmark, Nilsson, Lehtinen. I mean, here, you pop up Lehtinen because he had a good run for a while. Look at his game log. He's down under 10 points. Bad, 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 good, good, bad, bad, good, bad. No, sorry, Lehtinen's out. He's facing Boston anyway. Kincaid had a good run there for a while. Carey Price is inconsistent. So now we go to Jake Allen. And what I'm going to show you, look, I like the trend. And what I'm going to show you, remember what we did yesterday? We counted up the wins. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 wins. Throw that one out, the no decision. 5 wins in these 10 starts that are pictured on this page. Crooked number, crooked number, crooked number, crooked number, crooked number, crooked number. Dude can let in some goals. You need to be aware of that. He carries a little bit of risk. If I look at the duds, under 10 is a dud. 1, 2, bad. Granted, it was a no decision. He got his butt yanked. Not so great, bad, bad. Okay, but here's what you can also decipher out of this. These were bad, and then they got okay. If we go back, say, 6, 7 games, 1 dud. And the rest are, you can kind of live with them. But now what I'm going to look for, so maybe the bad stuff's behind him, and he is drawing a bad offense tonight. So again, these are the things you've got to go through in your mind, and you've got to actually determine if there's somebody out there better on the slate than Jake Allen right now, because he's cheap, for the slate. I'm looking at 20-plus games. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? That's it. 4 20-plus games. And only one of them over 30. That's not that attractive. Now you have to decide, is the game log more attractive to you, or is the minus 300 facing Vancouver more attractive to you? Whichever one you pick, at least you've done a little bit of research. Well, I'm seeing far too many people just blindly roster the biggest odds out of Vegas and the cheapest goalie in that spot and just roll with it. And I'm telling you, it's wrong. It's going to burn you. It's lazy and stupid. I'm trying to fix that. Look at Matt Murray. I'll read his log to you. Matt Murray for 8,500 is a minus 210 favorite, 7-3 in his last 10 with 1 dud, 5 20-plus games, and 2 30-plus games. He's better than Jake Allen. Now, is he in a better spot than Jake Allen? Maybe not. But he's a minus 210. His upside is better than Jake Allen's. His 20-plus games is better than Jake Allen's. His record, instead of 5-5, is 7-3 in his last 10 games. Better than Jake Allen's. Okay? Again, doesn't mean you play him over Jake Allen. It means you need to think about these things. Connor Hellebuck, good spot at home, playing Anaheim. Anaheim's a decently hot offense. Throw the no decision out. With Hellebuck, you've got 8,500, same as Matt Murray. 6-4 record over his last 10, 2 duds, 7 20-plus games, and 3 over 30. In my opinion, better than Matt Murray. Same price. More 20-plus games, more 30-plus games. Yeah, he carries 1 more dud, but he's got more 20-plus and 30-plus games than Matt Murray. Matt Murray's been out for a while, too. We don't know how he's going to react first game back. Tuukka Rask. Man, don't laugh at me. Nobody takes Tuukka Rask in cash. Look at the wins. Tuukka Rask is a plus, 120-ish. He's an underdog tonight. I don't know why, but he's an underdog. 7-3 record, 2 duds, 4 20-plus games, and 2 30-plus games. Okay, so not terrible, but again, for 8,700, I'd rather just stick with Hellebuck. And then we get to John Gibson, 8,800, biggest goalie on the slate. Won his last 4 and then won 4 in a row again after a couple of games, a couple of bad games. When I look at his log, 8,800 gets me, he's an underdog. He's a bigger underdog than Tuukka Rask. 8-2 record, but he's won 4 in a row. 2 duds, 7 games at 20-plus, and 4 games at 30-plus. A couple of them approaching 50. 3 shutouts in that stretch. 4 shutouts in that stretch. That's your goalie. That's your goalie tonight. I know he's on the road. I know he's facing Dallas. Dallas isn't scoring goals. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I'm telling you, that's your goalie tonight. Your question is the $600 worth it to go down to Jake Allen and the minus 300 favorite? I know where the public is going. The public is going to take the discount and the 300 odds. That might not be right. Because what you're comparing is a 5-5 record versus an 8-2 record. And Jake Allen looks better recently, that's true. But a 5-5 record versus an 8-2 record should not be a contest. 3 duds versus 2 duds, okay. But 4 20-plus games for Jake Allen versus 7 20-plus games for John Gibson should not be a contest. 1 30-plus game for Jake Allen versus 4 30-plus games for John Gibson should not be a contest. 4 shutouts and 3 games over 40 points for John Gibson versus none of those for Jake Allen should not be a contest. I am going to prove to you that John Gibson is the better goalie, but I'm also going to tell you that Jake Allen is in play. It isn't terrible fundamentally to roster Jake Allen tonight. It was to roster Lyon yesterday. But you have to dig through these numbers and you have to look at this stuff and figure it out, okay? So without killing too much time on the goalies, your goalies really and truly are going to be Jake Allen, John Gibson, or Connor Hellebuck. Okay, so now that we've got that solved, let's dive over into NHL.com. Let's do the stats again like we did yesterday. This time I only went back a couple of weeks. I want to see who's balls hot. And I went by goals for, of course, and I ranked them out. And then I went by goals against, clicked it twice, ranked them out. Shots for, ranked them out. Shots against, clicked twice, ranked them out. Okay? And here is what I got for matchup spots tonight. And it coincides with what we're looking at with the Vegas odds. And that's a good sign. When Vegas and the numbers jive together, that's a good sign. When we look at Montreal and Buffalo, neither team scoring goals, 27th and 29th respectively. However, Montreal is giving up goals. They're 28th in the league defensively. That right now, over this 2-week, 3-week sample size, they are giving up 28th most goals. That means that Buffalo's in a pretty good spot, especially being at home. Okay? So I don't mind me some Buffalo tonight. When I look at New Jersey and Pittsburgh, that game has the 6. That game has the highest game total on the night. It's leaning under in Vegas, but with the minus 210 being big in favor of Pittsburgh, the high implied team total is going to lean towards Pittsburgh. Vegas is telling us Pittsburgh's going to score, it's going to go 4-2 or something like that. That's what Vegas is trying to tell us. Neither team's scoring goals, 22nd and 23rd respectively. Even Pittsburgh's running a little bit cold. Defensively, middle of the pack, 11th for New Jersey, 14th for Pittsburgh. But I like the fact that Pittsburgh is set to score a lot of goals tonight. And, of course, we trust Pittsburgh. The other one that I'm looking at, Anaheim and Winnipeg. I don't like Anaheim tonight because they're 21st in goals scored, and they're going up against 4th fewest allowed in Winnipeg. Winnipeg's at home. Winnipeg plays better defense at home. Anaheim isn't exactly scoring like crazy, and it's probably, I think their top line is, and Silfverberg's doing a little bit, but it's probably because their other lines are not scoring with them. So maybe you'd look at a Getzlaf or a Reichel or somebody like that, or a Silfverberg, kind of as a one-off play, but I'm not going to stack against Hellebuck at home. I don't like Winnipeg right now with Laine being out because that's where all their goals have been coming from. Winnipeg's only scoring 24th most in the league over the past couple of weeks, and that's mostly Laine doing that. The rest of the offense hasn't been great. So I'm kind of off that game in general, to be honest with you, which actually makes it a pretty good game for the goalies because it might not be high scoring. Vancouver at St. Louis with the minus 300 and the 5.5 total. So that minus 300 and that 5.5 is going to lean most of those goals towards St. Louis. Now, if you look, Vancouver 30th in goals. St. Louis 17th, a little surprising. They've climbed up out of the basement, kind of getting in towards the middle of the pack. It means they're maybe running pretty good right now. Vancouver has given up 20th most goals, which means that they're kind of bottom third. It means that St. Louis is trending up. Vancouver is bottom third. It means St. Louis gets a little bit of a bump offensively tonight. So we're going to look at them. Boston and Dallas. Boston's the 12th most goals over this time period. Dallas 25th most. Dallas ain't scoring. Dallas is scoring on their top line, but again, they don't have other lines supporting them. As far as giving up goals, Boston's given up the 18th most, which should surprise you because they're generally a top 5 defense. And Dallas has given up 22nd most, which puts them in the bottom third. So when I've got the 12th most scoring offense in Boston going against the 22nd most, or worst defense in Dallas, that's a good spot for Boston. So my offenses tonight, a little bit of Buffalo, a lot of Pittsburgh, a lot of St. Louis, and a little bit of Boston. Done. There's your 4 offenses. Now stack accordingly. When I look at shots for, it coincides with Buffalo being in a good spot because Montreal's given 30th most shots in the league. They're ranked 30th in shots allowed. That means they're giving up a ton. New Jersey's going into Pittsburgh, who over this time period is allowing the fewest shots in the league. Pittsburgh is, as you can see here by being top of the chart. New Jersey's not exactly scoring goals, and they're not shooting the puck a ton. They're ranked 31st right now in shots for. Something's wrong with New Jersey. And they're going into a bad matchup, so I'm not counting on a lot of New Jersey tonight. Anaheim's been on the road, back-to-back games, whatever. Not counting on a lot of them. Vancouver, 23rd fewest shots, going up against St. Louis, who's allowed the 4th fewest shots. St. Louis is a good shot suppression team. Vancouver ain't shooting the puck. Not a good sign for Vancouver. Now you can see why you might start leaning towards Jake Allen, but at least we're letting the research unfold for us throughout the day, and we're not just looking, 300 odds and cheap. Thanks. You got to dig deeper. Now that we're digging deeper, we're starting to line up on it. We're starting to see why that might be the correct play. Like I said, yesterday it was not the correct play. Today, it's probably correct, especially if you want to save a little bit of money. All right, so with a little bit of that at-a-glance stuff, let's dive into the research station. Let's move down and find who the guys are that are doing the damage. As I flip my page closed and my notebook closed here. Not really on Montreal, remember? I might be on a Gallagher, though. 5.4 and 43, or 5.3 and 43 for 6,500 is a 2.3x value. If you take this is what I'm going to tell you. If you take the goals and you get it down to a 10-game sample, remember what I talk about? So that's 0.5 goals in 10 games, average. That's 0.3 assists in 10 games, average. And that 43 comes down about 4, because we take 10% away to get this down to a 10-game average. We're sitting at about 39, so 3.9 shots and blocks. When I multiply that out, 3.9 times 1.6, because you get 1.6 points for a shot or a block. 0.3 times 8, because you get 8 points for an assist. And 0.5 times 12, because you get 12 points for a goal. When I add those numbers together, I get 14.8 for 6,500. Divide 14.8 by 6.5K to get me a per $1,000 ratio, a value ratio. I get a 2.3. So what I'm using is I'm using those 2.3s and 2.5s and whatever as a baseline to determine which guys are more valuable. So when I see an offense that I like, I'm going to try and pick the more valuable guys within that offense that are set up to play well tonight. I'm going to use some line matching to see, is the 2 going to go against the 1, or is the 2 going to go against the 2? I'm going to use those types of things, or maybe I'm looking at stacking a power play because a team gives a lot of penalties up or whatever. There are little nuances that we talk about in our VIP program for our guys, but honestly, this is the basics. Okay, we have to know who's more valuable. Is Brendan Gallagher at 6,400 or 6,500 more valuable or less valuable than Paul Byron at 4,100? You can't compare that generally by looking at 5,343 versus 2,318. But when you add up the fantasy points over the 10-game sample and then turn around and divide it by his salary to get 2.1x or 2.6x, now you know the 2.6 is more valuable than the 2.1 because I'm buying more points with it. I'm buying production with my salary, and I want to get the most bang for my buck. Okay? So let's run down really quickly who we like. I don't like Montreal much tonight. If I did, now I may have a one-off in there or two depending, because I do like Gallagher at his 2.3. I like Lehkonen at his 2.3 because he's cheap. 2.3, I'd like to see a little higher, but 2.3 for 4,800 is not terrible. And Galchenyuk is not bad at all. He's a 2.6, which actually gets him up there on the slate. You're going to find that 4, 5, and 38, or 4, 5, and say 34 for 5,400 is pretty good production for that price. For this slate, he's a little bit underpriced. Now I'm going to dive over into Buffalo, and I'll slide this over for you. There, for you DK guys, now you can see the pricing there, because you got to do the same thing with Draftkings that I do for Fanduel, and you can make this work very easily. Ryan O'Reilly, no. Sam Reiner, yes. 5.4, 32. Add 10% because it's a 9-game sample to about 35 for 5,600, and now you've got a 2.6. He's right there with Galchenyuk. They're the same dude right now. So pick which one you like better if you're going to roll them out. Ristolainen hit the defense tonight, but Ristolainen's only a 2.0 in value. This 0 goals is killing him. 4 assists, 42 shots and blocks, or 46 shots and blocks for 5,200. It's a little pricey for no goals in there. I'd like to see him scoring a little bit along the way. It's not to say he's never going to score a goal again. It's just saying that he's not running hot. And I'm trying to get the hot guys. So when I scroll down a little bit, don't really like anything on that second line. You know, what I do like here is the -5 and the 0 and the negatives on the defensive pairings for Montreal. Buffalo can score on that. They're giving up more goals than they're scoring. But it's not exactly like Buffalo's not negative themselves. If you wanted to run some of these, you know, 2s or whatever, find the matchups and run, maybe find out if the 2s run against the 1s in Buffalo when Montreal plays them. If that's the case, then you might really like some Lehkonen and Galchenyuk, especially Galchenyuk. Because that -4 is an indicator that Buffalo's not running so good. Sorry, I kicked my mouse there. New Jersey, I'm largely off of them. I liked them when I saw these numbers. But when I saw these prices, I didn't like them as much. And when we go back to the fact that they're, you know, not scoring goals right now, and they're going up against Pittsburgh, who's not allowing a lot of goals and certainly not allowing shots over the last couple of weeks, tells me New Jersey's in a pretty nasty spot. Pittsburgh we did like, but let's look at the top line here. Sidney Crosby's expensive, and that's fine. You know, Sid the Kid is an amazing talent, but you're gambling a little bit with that price. You're gambling with Malkin right now too, because he's not running the 12 goals per 10 games that he was running a month ago. He's still up there, but if you look at his game log, it's kind of backloaded. The numbers, he's cooled back off. He's cooling off, and that's all right. And he's still a premier play on the slate. He can blow up with anyone. But again, I'd rather take my exposure down here through his cheap guys. Look at what Hornquist is doing. 6'2", 62, 62. Whip out a calculator and take 6.2 times 1.6. And that's just his shot floor. Tell me that doesn't impress you when you hit the equals sign. I'll let you do that math. But that's going to impress the hell out of you. And haggling for 4,100 isn't too bad if you need something cheap. Okay? Hornquist is a 2.9x right now, almost a 3x. His salary is way under where it should be. And I hope nobody from Fanduel is paying attention to my video, because they'll raise his price based on what I just said there, and I'll have single-handedly screwed the industry. And, I'm a pretty arrogant guy, so I think that that's possible. Tune in tomorrow when he's 8,000. Of course, I'm joking. Not even that arrogant. I don't take myself too seriously. But that said, there's your spots. I don't like the defense as much in there. If we speed up a little bit, Anaheim, Getzlaf's okay. Perry, Reichel, okay. Montour, no. Sorry. He was hot for a while. 3 goals, 2 assists, 28 shots and blocks. 28 shots and blocks. A shitty floor for a defender. 4,300 is a little high price for that. You're not going to like the value multiplier when you find it. Silfverberg's okay. When I look at Getzlaf, he's only a 2.2. When I look at Perry, he's a, what? I didn't even do him. He's not even a 2.0. Reichel's a 2.5. Silfverberg's a 2.2. Reichel's my target in this offense if I want to run anybody against Winnipeg tonight. When I look over at Winnipeg, I got Connor, who scored lately, is going to get some attention, but he's probably chasing points at this point because his shot volume sucks. Now, he'll probably score 2 goals tonight because I said that. And I'm an arrogant prick, so what can I do? When I look at these guys without Line, I don't want any of these guys really. They're in a good spot. They can score some goals. Anaheim, it's a little bit different on the road. But per the games that I like, I actually like Buffalo a little bit better. I definitely like Pittsburgh better. I like St. Louis better. And I like Boston better. So Winnipeg's fallen down to about 5th on my list. Probably won't play them much. If you look at the last 5 games DVP, that's another thing that this research station gives you. You've got red everywhere. This one means that among centers and wings, Anaheim has given up the least amount of points. Least amount of points to centers and wings over the last 5 games. And fourth fewest to defenders. None of these guys are in a good spot tonight. Now, again, Anaheim's on the road. They're a different team on the road. They might go in there and get torched for 6. But if we look at the trends, we are not getting value out of these prices, especially without Line. We are not getting value with these prices, and we're in a bad defensive spot. It's just not good for DFS. It's not good fundamentals. Scroll down to Vancouver. Oh, good Lord, threw up in my shoe. Sorry, but they're awful. But look at these negatives in the PMR. This is plus-minus rating. Another tool in the research station. Plus-minus rating, -7, -3, -3, -2. Negative, negative. Giving many, many more goals than they are scoring right now. That automatically puts St. Louis in a good spot. So when we look over at St. Louis, we liked them anyway. Who's doing the scoring? Shen? Not really. Steen? No. And if Tarasenko comes back tonight, I'd like to see what his numbers are. They haven't been great for his salary. Schwartz, 4.434. Schwartz has been all right. But he's a 2.2x at this salary, so not great. Pietrangelo, 4.751. Add the 51. Sorry, the 34, bring up about 6. Make him a 40. He's still only a 2.2x. Pietrangelo at 51, add 10. Make him a 60. Make him a damn 60. He is pumping on some shots and blocking a ton. And I watched him last night, and this time on ice of 26 is no joke. The dude lives on the ice right now. So when I look at Pietrangelo and the 4.7 and 60, I hope the 4 and the 7 doesn't drop off, because at 5,800, that's making him a 3.4x. That's good. So far, he's the only one over a 3. Okay? So when I'm taking a look at these and I'm off of these guys down here, I'm certainly off of these guys. And I will say this, we know St. Louis is going to be the chalk. You want a GPP stack tip of the day? Stack Vancouver. We know Allen can implode. Now, is he going to do it? No, it's peeing into the wind. It's spitting out the car window. It's coming back in your face most of the time. But sometimes that loogie gets through. Dallas and Boston, we'll focus on this game a little bit, and then we'll put a nice little bow on this. Maybe we'll build a lineup or two if you've got the time. We're over 30 minutes as it is. When I look at Riley Nash, 4.6, 25 for 5,800. Pasternak, 6.9, 45. Marchand, 7.10, 35. When I look at their numbers, Nash is a 2.3x. Marchand is a 2.8. And Pasta's a 2.9. Pretty good numbers going up against a team that's giving up goals right now, even though they're on the road. And if you look at the DVP column over here, the 30, it's green for these guys. You know, these guys, the value compared to the rest of the slate, when everyone else is a 2.6 at best, and only Hornqvist is a 2.9, when you find a 2.8 and a 2.9, I don't care if it's $20,000, you almost pay up for it. You don't really have a choice. Unless the matchup's terrible, and this matchup isn't terrible. If Krug comes back, he's also up there. If Krug comes back at 310 and 53 at 6K, Krug's is 3.5. So Petra and Krug are your leaders in the clubhouse today if Krug comes back. If not, I might look at a Vatanen in New Jersey or an Edler, but we don't like either one of those teams tonight. So let's hope for some Krug. When I look over at the Dallas stuff, you know, Krejci's okay. 6'2", 24 odd. The 24 is going to kill you, but the 6 and 2 is okay. And Donato's great balls of fire. 4,200, this guy, he's on the power play 1. They're feeding him. They're really wanting to test this kid and see what he's worth. So at 4,200, I would almost call him a lock. So my lock, Hornqvist, Donato, probably a Pasta or a Marchand, and then figure it out from there. Maybe a one-off from Buffalo or Montreal. Maybe some random one-off from somewhere else. Maybe I want a little Winnipeg exposure. Maybe Dallas over here with Jamie Benn if I can afford it, or Radulov down here on the 2. I mean, these are the options that you can take. You know, I think your defense is Petro and Krug. I think that your center position is wide open. And I think that Tyler Seguin's actually pretty important. I know that Boston's not a great, they're not allowing a ton of goals. But when you look at the 7.859, so take away 10%, 7.854 at 8,200, he gets you a 3.0. That at the center spot is light years ahead of everybody else, even in a not so great matchup. Light years ahead of everybody else. I think Tyler Seguin's probably the most important guy on the slate tonight. Because when we talk about positional scarcity, we talk about, I've only got, 5 centers written down on my list. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I've got 19 wings written down. And I know we roster, 4 wings for 2 centers, so the list should be at least twice as big in theory, but it's 4 times as big tonight. Wings are deep. Defense is fine. You can find value at defense tonight. You're having trouble finding it at the center spot. When you have trouble finding your value at the center spot, when you find it, at any price point, you pay up for it. Okay, it's just another tip for you. That's why Gronk was so popular for a few years. Now in the NFL, you see a lot of tight ends that can score touchdowns and are doing a lot of damage. But 4 years ago, you didn't. It was Gronk or bust. And that's why you paid $9,000 for him in DFS. Because he was just so light years ahead of everybody else at the position that you had to pay it, because the advantage he gave you was insane. Tyler Seguin is that advantage tonight. Okay, so I'll leave you with that. Maybe we'll do a quick build just because you already know where I'm going to go. Let's say I put in Jake Allen, because if I want some of those more expensive guys, that's just the way it's going to have to be. I start with Seguin. I come down with, that's going to be too much. Oh, brother. It's going to be too much Boston. We're going to have to leave that center spot open for a minute, because I know we're probably going Donato for savings. Pasta probably for cheap, even though Marchand's the better guy. Hornqvist. Krug. Petro. And now I got 4,500 per player, so I'm going to be hurting for certain. So I'm going to have to make some decisions, but that would be the core I'd want to run. If I wanted access to I think Pasta's too. This is going to be my problem, getting the big Boston guns with Tyler Seguin. That's going to be my problem. If I took out Krug, since we don't know if he's even going to play, and I threw in, say, an Edler, that's bad going against Jake Allen. That's bad, 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 bad. Can't do that. Let's take a chance on Vatanen. $5,000 per guy. So if I want a $5,000, well, Lehkonen is. Told you I liked him in Montreal, 4,800, and now I got 5,200 for a center. Henrique Brassard, not terrible. Kessler, Little, Rodriguez, Sedin, Faxes, Zajac. See, I don't like any of these guys. Don't like any of them. Can't do it. So this is going to require some shuffling around, and we'll end up seeing where I go tonight. We'll be talking about it inside the VIP channels. If I wanted to show you one really quickly, there's no way it's going to work. But if I threw Gibson in there, now it's going to really roast my average salary. I'm going to probably have to take Hagelin and Donato to make up for it. And now I'm starting to get back up in the 6 range. So if I wanted a Krug or a Petro, now I can probably start doing that. But see, I've already done my value research. I already know where my names are. I already know where my players are going to pull from, because I'm building with a plan. I'm researching with a plan. And now let's say I wanted Riley Nash to get my exposure to the Boston 1, and that was Rick Nash. That was wrong. Now I'm still under, so now I'm at 6,000 for a defender and 2 wings. If I go back to Vatanen for cheap. The other one that I could run, and it's one of my favorite go-tos. He's a little bit cold right now, but that's even more money. Now I got 6,800. So now that gets me Hornqvist. 7,200 gets me Pasta. Boom. So I'm correlated a little bit with Donato being a one-off, but I've got Riley Nash and Pasternak. I've got St. Louis as as my defender in Petro. I've got a punt, more or less, in Petrie, but Montreal's not in a terrible spot with Buffalo. And I've got Hagelin as my value play with Donato, and then Nash and Seguin. I've still got Seguin in there. If I wanted to really, I don't know why I would take Seguin out, but if I did, then I wanted to come down a little bit less expensive to say, I don't know why I would do this, but say Horvat. Now I don't need Hagelin. I got 6,600. I can go get Gallagher. I can get Reinert. If I get Reinert with 1,000 left, I can take out Petrie, and I can probably correlate him with Ristolainen. And this was all with Gibson. This is just the tweaking and the goofing that you do. Now I'm a little bit heavy on Buffalo, but could work tonight. So this is just kind of what we do. We're running on 40 minutes. I'm going to let you go. Clear those out. Build your own damn lineups. Use the research that I showed you in the process to do your own research. If you want to learn more and you always want access to getting more and more coaching, more and more talking about even more specific stuff than this, you come to dfsarmy.com/ref/3. Use coupon code CHOP, C-H-O-P, because, again, friends don't let friends pay retail. And we will catch you on the inside. Thanks for paying attention, guys. Click like, click subscribe if you like this information. Can't wait to get MLB going because we're going to do a lot more of this throughout the baseball season and have a whole lot of fun. Take care, guys. We'll see you.